Okay, yesterday we began Masechta Kidushin. We're learning Le'ilu Nishmas, Meir Ben Baruch, Mr. Mike Greenfield, Oliver Shalom, father of our beloved Benji, special man. He was just a man of conviction, a man of passion, and a man of truth and emes, and a rabid Giant fan. And he saw the Giants win the Super Bowl. Nice. Yeah, season. Yeah, he saw them win 4. He didn't see them win 4. 2. Kenny's going like this.
4 season tickets. 4 season tickets.
4 season tickets. Oh yeah, 4 season tickets. Right. Of course, he shared with the guy. We won't go into that. Okay. Anyway.
Well, I told you that we should stick to Gemara's less aggravation as Jets fans.
Now we're going. This year is going to be the same. That offensive line. Okay. Anyway. So we began the Masechta, telling us that a woman is acquired in 3 ways: Kesef, Shtar, Keser, Shtar, Ubia, and she's kona herself 2 ways, either with again in Mrs. Abal, Yavam is kona with Bia only, and she's only free with Chalitza. Then the Gemara got very technical. We went into the discussion why we contrasted the first parak versus the second parak. We contrasted why one is mentioning about the woman, why mentioning about the man, be consistent in both. Then we contrasted the lashon of Kinyan versus the lashon of Kidushin, and then we finally got down to the lashon of the words, the lashon of the numbers, which by now you guys should know because I hacked it a few times that numbers, male numbers in Hebrew is shlosha, and female numbers is shalosh. It's the opposite of usually. Usually a kamet say is nekeva, but in numbers it's the opposite. So we want to know, since the Torah is written in the lashon of zachar, so why do we learn hisha niknas b'shalosh drachim rather than shloisha drachim? So we suggested that derech is a lashon of nekeva, as we saw by the Torah. That lehem said derech asher yelchu ba is a lashon nekeva. They said, therefore, we asked the question that why in the Mishnah in Zav, by a Zav, that say the lashon of derech, and it says shiva, which is the lashon of zachar. But we said because derech is lashon zachar, because we brought by the Teichacha that they'll come in and we'll chase them out. And the warriors, we answered this. We answered one. Finally, with speaking about women, speaking about men. Then the Gemara gave a very asked of a question. It said, why don't we use the word davar? Why do we use the word derech at all? Why don't we use the word davar? Now we said a very nice pshat in the Nachlas Moshe, and then we wouldn't have to come on to the ambiguity of derech being 2 possibilities, because davar everyone holds it zachar, and since the Torah is written in zachar, you'd always use the lashon of shiva, shloisha, and that'd be fartig and esek. Okay, so that's so we're up to the bottom. What's it nan? Esrik shava leilin begimul drachim. Now we know that an elon, when you had wanted to define Linyan Maisa, certain halachas, Linyan Arla, you go after Chanata, you go after the time it buds, not after when you pick the fruit, you go in the year that the fruit buds. So an esrog, which is a tree, of course, is equal to an Elon in 3 ways. In which ways? Regarding Arla, regarding Neter Avoy, the 4th year that you have to take it up and eat in Yerushalayim like Ma'aseh Sheni, and regarding Shemitah, what will give it its year is the year that it bloomed in rather than the year that it's picked in. And therefore, in Esrog Shavel Elan Begimel Drachim, listening Devarim again, and you wouldn't have the ambiguity of what of perhaps Lashon Nekeva. Says, and for the Gemara, I'll tell you why we learn derech. You should be in the Mishneh Seifa, Uliyerek b'derech echad. And it's not the yerek b'davar echad; it's equal to a yerek b'derech echad. It goes, and we'll see that linyan yerek, linyan meiser, you go after when it's picked, fellas. If it's picked in the 2nd year, it's a meiser sheni year. If it's picked in the 3rd year, it's a meiser oni year. So linyan yerek you go after. So linyan elon, it's 3 ways, and linyan yerek it's 1 way. And since yerek echad, we have to learn derech, so we learn derech in the Reisha as well. Says the Gemara, 1 second, Sefer Nami Nisni Davar. So learn, again, the same kasha, learn Davar by Esrig in the Sefer. Says, by learning the lashon of derech, what's the chiddush? The darke the Esrig Hiyerek. that the derech of a esrog is like a yerek. So since the derech, the way of a yerek is like an esrog is like a yerek, we choose to use the word yerek rather than davar, and therefore in the ratio also we said shloisha drachim. Now, what's the derech that an esrog is like a yerek? Now it goes the way you irrigate it. My yerek darker legadol al kol mayim, even mayim shuvim. The yerek, guys, is not enough rainwater. You have to go ahead and water it and irrigate it. So to b'shas l'kitasa yisuroi, and you go after it's l'kita regarding the year of Meiser. That will decide whether it's a Meiser year or Meiser Sheni year. Af esrig darker legadol kol mayim, and esrig as well. You have to irrigate it with mayim shuvim. It's not enough rainwater, and therefore b'shas l'kitasa yisuroi. So since you want to learn the word derech by esrig memelo we because we learned derech by the Seifa, who had in the Reisha. And the Gemara now continues to again very exact, going through different Mishnayos and Shas, why you choose to use the lashon of derech, which is subject to whether it might be the keva or zacha. Let's use davar, which is the lashon zacha. V'hadid koi. Now this is a koi. According to Mr. Greenfield, be a punter from Texas, but according to most people, it's what? But it's in yeshiva we say a kfi, but I think the lashon is kai, as in Ernie kai. Okay, anyway, so there's halachas like this, fellas, outside to give you a little information. We know that a deer is different than an animal. A chay is different than a behemoth in two ways. One, it requires kisei adam, and two, the chaylev of a chay is muta. The chaylev of a chay is muta. If you eat the chaylev from behemoth, you chayav kares. Why? Because the chaylev in the kachim realm is put on the mizbeach. It's the imurim. Since you can't bring a deer as a carbon, the chaylev is muta. Okay. So now, vatanan koi yesh b'it drachim shava l'chaya. It has a derech that's equal to a chaya that it needs kisei adam. The yesh b'it drachim shava l'behema that the chaylev is aser. The yesh b'it drachim shava l'chaya u'behema, right? That it's chaya behema requires a shchita. The shchita matters it. The yesh b'it drachim she'ena shava l'chaya loy behema. You can't breed it. You can't breed it with a behema. Maybe it's a chaya. You can't breed it with a chaya. Maybe what it's a behema. So therefore, now what's the question? The question is use the word dava. Why use the word derech? Right? Why using the word derech? Use the word what? Use the word dava. So that, and the Gemara doesn't answer that. Visu, an additional question. Something you might remember. Zuhi min adrachim sheshava gitei nashim b'shuchrei avadim. That you have to say b'fanei nichtav and b'fanei nechtam. Right? I mean, this is the derech that get isha is equal to the shtar shichra of an eved. That this need devarim. Why don't you learn achas derachim? Learn devarim. So now we have a teretz. Elo, here's the following teretz. Kol heicha, the ika plukta. Anytime there is a distinction, a contrast, you're contrasting two things. Tani drachim. Kol heicha, the leka plukta. There is no contrast. Tani devarim. So now let's look at Rashi. We'll go through each case. We're going to go through, guys. We're going to go through Isha. We're going to go through Zav. We're going to go through vegetables. We're going to go through Koi, and we're going to go through get. In other words, this is a new teretz. Forget you don't have to come onto the trutzim of Lashon Zacha, Lashon Akeva. If there's a plukta, if there's a contrast to be had, we use the word derech. And Rashi explains each one. Says Rashi, Dika plukta. Now, plukta usually means machloikis. Here it doesn't mean machloikis. Rashi says, hilik bidrochav. Different in its ways. There's a difference in its comparison. You're like we say, compare and contrast, right? B'derech zu hu daima lakan. In this way, it's similar to this. Ub'derech zu eina daima. And this way, it's not. Ki goy mas nisan. For example, our Mishnah, begimel drachim lemuutei chuppah, the like hanya. So it's a kinyan like chuppah. It has to do with ishus like chuppah, but as opposed to chuppah, which is not kona for Kidushin, Kesher Shtaru Bia is. So you contrasted that to Chuppah. Thus we learn Trachim. Once you have a contrast, you can learn Derech. So it's very geschmack. Okay, next. The Zav, Haki Hu Dahavi Oinis Liziva. The 7 ways that we said, we didn't go through them, but the 7 ways that if you overeat, you overdrink, or you jump, different things that can bring on, only those things would be considered an Oinis. but but something else would not be considered noinus. So in other words, you're contrasting the gittin be'elu shava v'loy ba'oimet who gets zela ishti v'shta shechor zela abdi the chayzer beget ve'en chayzer b'shechor the zach le'lev shlei b'fanav. You might remember this. If a man gives a get to a shliach and then he says don't give it, you can change his mind because it's a chay for a woman to get divorced. Conversely, we said machlokes Chacham Reb Meir, if you give a get to a shtar shechra to a shliach, he's zeicha already for the eved because it's chus to go free. So you have your contrast, right? It didn't have to contrast koi because again the Gemara contrasted it for us. The Gemara did all the contrast. Now you have a very, very, very good answer to why we learned the word derech. Says the Gemara. Finally, Dekanami Avadik also Diktani Seifa Rebbe Eliezer Oimer Esrik Shabal Elon Lechol Dover. Fellas, in that Mishnah in Bikurim, Rebbe Eliezer concludes. Listen what he says: an esrog is not like an yerik at all. It's only like a tree. It's only like a tree. So he doesn't have a contrast. Good. In other words, an esrog you even go after Natia, okay, and therefore, what does it say? What's the key word? Esrog shavalin lechol davar. Why use davar? Because you have nothing to go ahead and go and contrast them with, right? It's just davar, no contrast, so very geschmack. It's a very, very nice raya. Okay, so as I told you, this is this.
Rav Lezer, doesn't this last line contrast with what you said yesterday? They said this whole Gemara was written by the Rabban Savrai. Are they mentioning the Tana Amira?
No, you added the word Tana. I said the word Amira.
Amira. Okay, so
where's the Amira here?
Rabbi Lazar. He's a Tana.
He's the Tana of the Mishnah. Yeah, he's the Tana of the Mishnah.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, but it means you were listening yesterday. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Infuse yourself with a little more as a schar.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, sorry, Meir. Anyway, so it's in fact Meir brings up a very interesting thing. I found the Ritva says in fact this is still a continuation until the Amid Beis is a continuation. It's from the Ageris of Shira Goin that this was not written by Ravina and Ravashi. It was not written by Ravina and Ravashi. It could explain why I don't know. It's very tedious, very technical. But anyway, we're continuing now. In the Mishnah, it said shloisha drachim, right? Anytime the Mishnah gives a number, you have to why are you giving me a number? I can count 3. The koines atzmai b'shtei drachim, misas abal, v'get b'misas abal, that's 2. So you have a minion in the Reisha and you have a minion in the Seifa, and I can count. So we want to know what's that number coming to exclude? What's the number coming to exclude? Now, says the Gemara, minyana de Reisha l'mutei mai, minyana Seifa l'mutei mai, minyana de Reisha l'mutei chuppah. Okay, so now we said chuppah yesterday is one of what? Of 3 things, right? Chuppah is either you put Baal brings you into Rishus, or put up poles and a canopy on top, like we do, and also by decking. Those are three possibilities of chuppah. What does chuppah do? Chuppah is what we call nisuin. The first act is Kidushin, the second part is called nisuin. Now, you might think, therefore, if you do chuppah, everything's taken care of. In other words, you just went to as we say, you cut to the chase, right? You skip nisuin, you skip Kidushin, and you went right to nisuin. So the Tana says no. Dafka kesef shtar and bia, can't go to nisuin right away. This is very geschmack with the Rambam. Okay, I unfortunately I erased the Rambam. We said yesterday the Rambam, the lashon of the Rambam was koydem an Torah. A man would go ahead and bring a woman into the house, live with her without Adam, and she would be his wife. Once the Torah was given, there was a mishra of kiyikach. There was a mishra of kiddushin. So in other words, there always was nisuin. It was only nisuin. There wasn't like concept of kiddushin. Yeah, you have it on the phone, but I don't have it on here. So in other words, you just bring it. You would just do the act of nisuin. So you might think a continuation of that, and we're saying no. Once the Torah was given kiyikach, there's a hakpada that you do kiddushin, and thus it's not koina, right? Haisha niklis b'shalish drachim b'kesev shtar obia, but don't think chup is going to work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to facilitate what? Kidushin. Now, what would the case be? What would the case be? Look at Rashi. It's very interesting. Guys, you would say the following. Before you look at Rashi, what would you say? What is the case of chuppah? A man goes ahead, he takes a woman and brings her to a chuppah, and then it's makadisha, right? That's what you say chuppah. Look what Rashi says. It's very fascinating. Says Rashi, again, where it gets wide, go down 4 lines. Lemute chuppah, shemasra la avia lechuppah, l'shem kedushin, ein mukadeshes bekach. Rashi says, if her father gives her over to a chuppah for the purpose of Kidushin, she's not Mekudeshes. What's the kasha? Why did Rashi say it's talking the case where the father gave her over? Forget the father. Why do we need a father here? You're speaking about a Gedolah. You don't have to speak about a Katana or a Naira, right? Rashi says it's speaking in a case where the father gave her over. Why speak in that specific case, guys? Why don't you speak a normal case? Just like a regular woman who's a Baigera, she's 12, 13, 14, 15, and she was Nicholas Chuppah. Says the Bnei Yeshua, beautiful teretz. The source for chuppah being kaina, according to one man the Omar, is the pasha of speaking the sati lish hazeh. I've given over my wife, my child. So since that pasha goof is speaking where you gave it over, therefore thus Rashi brings the source. He's bringing chuppah because the source is speaking the sati. He's speaking about a naira. So since that's the source, that's sure that's why Rashi brought it. But in a chinami, the case of chuppah could have been a gedolah also. Lav dafka, a father giving her over. Okay. This is a very, now the Gemara gets very, very hard, guys. Okay, so the first minyan is chuppah. Now, ul Rav Huna dama chuppah koine mikal v'chaymer, and lo Rav Huna who says chuppah is koine mikal v'chaymer. Guys, we'll see that on Daf Hey later this week. The Pup is of the opinion that chuppah is koine, meaning it does everything. So what's the Reish's minyan kamtel miute? Says the Gemara, l'meute chalipin. It comes to go ahead and exclude what known as kinyan chalipin. Okay, eye contact. What is kinyan chalipin? That's the most common kinyan that was used, right? Where do you learn it out from? You learn it from Boaz. What happened? Boaz goes ahead. He gives his shoe to Ploni Almoni, and he acquires what from Ploni Almoni? He acquires the fields of Machloin. He requires the fields of Machloin. So the Kli is the Kli of the Koine, right? The Kli is the Kli of the Koine, and you give it to the Makna, and you give it to the person who goes ahead and is bequeathing. So too, it's similar to Kesef. What is Kesef? You the one who wants to acquire is giving over the one who's giving herself over. So Chalipin is similar to Kesef. It's similar to Kesef, and since it has that similarity in Kesef, you might think that a woman, you can be kind of a woman with a kinyan chalipin. You might think you could be kind of a woman with mitaris chalipin, meaning you give her something and say, not as kesef, you give her something and say, I'm acquiring you, or she would give you something. No. She's makna herself, right? You're kind of, you're right. You would give her something, and she would give herself over, and you would think that works. Says the Gemara, no, that's what the Reisha comes to exclude. Now, now, why would you think chalipin works? Why would you think chalipin works? Says the Gemara. Since we learn out kesef from kicha mistei Efrain, masada mekanya b'chalipin, just like sada can be acquired b'chalipin, af ishanami makna b'chalipin. In other words, I have a source from Stay Ephraim, and since I learn out Kesef Kidushin from Stay Ephraim, so I would think Chalipin works as well. I would think what Chalipin works as well. Okay. Fred the Gemara ve'ema hachin kamashman it doesn't. Fred the Gemara ve'ema hachanami. Let's say it does work, and for the Gemara. Chalipin isnahu bepachas mishava pruta. Chalipin, the object used can be worth less than a shava pruta. The isha bepachas mishava pruta loy makna nafsha. A woman less than a shava pruta will leave not makna herself. Okay, I'm going to spend a little time on this. It's a good, very good sugya. Okay.
Why do you jump from the?
Okay, so kicha tells me that kesef is a kinyan, right? Okay, so now and therefore now kedushin, since kesef is a kinyan, you could acquire a woman with kesef. Good. Now, if that's the source for kesef, right? Then a field can be acquired with chalipin. A field can be acquired with chalipin as well. So, what extent am I learning from Stay Ephraim? I think, hang on, Benji. I think I'm going to answer your question soon. I think I know what's bothering him. Like, what's the extent of this limud? As we're going to see in a second, it's Machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Look at Rashi, guys. Loimakya nafsha. The genai hula. It's a genai. I'm giving myself up for less than a shava pruta. Hilkach, therefore, bottle litoiris chalipin bikidushin. In other words, once a woman is not going to be makna herself less than a shava pruta, even if it was worth a shava pruta, even if it's worth more than a shava pruta, it's out. Kinyan chalipin is out. In other words, since it could work less than a shava pruta, says Rashi, you mevatel the whole thing. It's out, right? Vafilu b'kli b'shava pruta. Iyavla b'loshen chalipin. If you would give it to her, you are mekudeshes to me, machlif zu, guys, loshen chalipin, right? I'm giving you more than a shava pruta. I'm giving you $10, and I say you are machlif the $10. You are what? I'm acquiring you. Then adiyavle b'tayris loshen kinyan oy kicha oy kedushin. In other words, you'd have to give him mitaris kesef. You'd have to mitaris kesef, but you can't give him mitaris chalipin. That's the way Rashi learns. So Rashi is learning the following, guys. Rashi is learning that you learn out from Stay Ephraim the complete package, just like whatever kinyan you could make by a field, you can make by an isha. Even chalipin should work, as the Gemara asks. Once you learn, in other words, the kasha is once you're learning after Stay Ephraim, that kesef works. So therefore, and anisha is kind of a kesef. So a woman should be able to be acquired with any kinyan that you can acquire a field with, and therefore you should be able to acquire her with chalipin. But the fact is, this one addendum, the fact that it's a genai, because she won't be makna, and the key word is nafsha. She won't be makna herself. She won't be makna herself. Therefore, what? Therefore, it doesn't work. If you give it over mitaris sleeping, it doesn't work. If you give it over mitaris kesef, it does work now. So again, guys, when you view the limud from kicha stay Ephraim, according to Rashi, you had to come on to a woman. The only reason it doesn't work is because it's a genai to her, right? Meaning chalipin is a viable kinyan. Chalipin is a viable kinyan, but it doesn't work. Why? Okay. Why? Because Rashi learns whatever kinyan there's by a sada, there should be a kinyan by the woman. Okay, let's see Tosfos now. This is a very beautiful sugya. Okay, the last Tosfos on the page. The isha bepachas mishava prutin lemak nafsha. Perish b'kuntris mishum de genai hula. It's a genai for the woman to be acquired for less than a shava pruta. Hilkach botalem taris chalipin. Kidushin, there is no, it's bottled completely. If it depends upon the woman being ganai, in other words, if she is willing to accept mitaris kesef less than a shavar pruta, it should work. Once you make it tolling in the isha, right? So the isha would go ahead mitaris kesef. Stick out a hand and say, give me less than a shavar pruta, then it should work. Skip the next few, because you have to know Gemara's Vaita, and go to 4 lines down. The first word of the word is L'kamon Daf Yud Aleph. V'oid kasha. This is a Gavaldic kasha that's more understandable. Himin esal kedaita chashta lemigmar kinyone ishim and kinyone sada. That's the key words. According to Rashi, you're learning out the kinyonim, the way to acquire a woman, the same way you acquire a field. In Cain, Ishanami tikni b'chazaka. K'may sada. Guys, a sada can be acquired keser shtar b'chazaka. Chazaka is you work the field. You open it, you close it. So therefore, you should be able to acquire the woman b'chazaka. we're going to see an Eved Kanani is required with chazaka. He ties his shoes, everything. No. I'm saying, I'm explaining. I'll give you an example. The Eved Kanani we're going to have soon in the sugya that he's nickness the karka, an Eved hookish the karka, and you acquire an Eved with kinyan chazaka. He ties his shoes. He does ma'aseh, so you do that. That would be the kinyan chazaka. But the isha, ma'aseh same thing. It's a kinyan. Same. That's the ma'aseh kinyan chazaka. In other words, there's no havamina that chazaka is going to work. Now another kasha, guys. V'oid, the Gemara is going to ask shtar minalan. Why is the Gemara asking that? If you learn that from Stay Ephron, you know where it's from, right? V'oid, they'll come on boy be Gemara b'shtar minalan. My boy, ligma b'sadeh. So therefore, very geshmak. So outside, guys. Rashi Shita with Taisa's bomb kashas, which are all understandable. Rashi learns out that from the just every kinyan that's shaykh by Sada Stay Ephraim, I'm going to say by the Isha. Everything. And the whole reason it doesn't work is because less than a Shavar Pruta. And when the Gemara asked, so Einachinami by Chalipin should work, you know why? Because you're learning out from Sada, and Chalipin works by Sada. So Einachinami. So what does the Gemara say? You're right regarding kinyan, but there's a little adjoinda I'm going to tell you. What's a little adjoinda? Since Chalipin is worth it, less than a Shavar Pruta, Anisha would not go ahead and do it, and they're out. Fred Taisus, a few bombs on Rashi. First of all, if it's Tali and her, let's say she would accept less than Shavar Pruta Mitaris Kesef. Sveitens, why in the world, if she's like any kinyan from Sada, just like you acquire a field with Chazaka, you should acquire a woman with Chazaka. And just like, and in addition, if you're telling me why is it that we know that a woman's quiet from Shtar, why the Gemara ask you quiet from Shtar? Learn it from Stay Ephraim. Okay. Lekach nira, what does Rabbeinu Tam say, guys? Says Rabbeinu Tam beautifully. Says the Gemara, Ella says Rabbeinu Tam, Lekach nira Rabbeinu Tam. The Garsina bepochas mishava pruta loy makna for loy gars nafsha. Guys, look at the Yomid base. Look at the Yomid base quickly. Loy makna nafsha. Okay. Don't take out the word nafsha there. It doesn't exist. Just say pochas mishava pruta loy makna. Less than a shava pruta. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Less than a shava pruta doesn't work. The loy bika paid Italian milsa. It doesn't depend upon her. Elahainu taima. What's the reason? Mishum de gomer kicha mistay Ephraim dichsiv be kesef. In other words, you know what we learn out from mistay Ephraim? We don't learn a kinyanim. We learn out what? That just like stay Ephraim was acquired with kesef, so too you have to acquire a woman with kesef, and less than a shavar pruta is not kesef. So you're not learning out kinyanim. You're learning a definition of kesef. Says the Gemara, "Upachas mishavar pruta loy mikri kesef." So, guys, beautiful Rabbeinu Tam. If you take out the word nafsha, he takes that out, and listen to the way he learns. Rabbeinu Tam learns. You're not learning out kinyanim, guys. You're not learning out kinyanim from Stay Ephraim, and therefore the Gemara needs a source for shtar, and therefore she can't possibly nick the aliyah chazaka. Right? Why are you learning out from Stay Ephraim? Simply one thing: that a woman is acquired with kesef. Zehu. Kesef. You know why Chalipin doesn't work? Because Chalipin is not less. Chalipin works less than a Shavar Pruta, and less than a Shavar Pruta is not considered Kesef. Less than a Shavar Pruta is not considered Kesef. So you have a very nice machloikus between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam as to the extent of the limit of kicha Stay Ephraim. When the Gemara says Kesef minalan kicha Stay Ephraim, says Rashi, I'm learning all kinyanim of Isha from there. Everything I'm learning from there. Says Taisus, you're learning at one thing. You're learning at Kesef. So here's the way Rabbeinu Tam reads the Gemara. Rabbeinu Tam reads the Gemara like this. It says Chalipin isnu b'pachas mishavar pruta. The Isha b'pachas mishavar pruta loy makna. She's not. Why? Because it's nothing to do with the woman. Less than a shavar pruta is nishkan Kesef. It's not Kesef. It doesn't work. And you learned out from Stay Ephraim, you need Kesef. I think it answers your kasha. Guys, you good? Great. Okay, excellent. I like that. Okay. Yeah.
Even if I said, okay, here's $1,000 But now it's Khalid, you're gonna give me back, so you say, well.
Chalipin works like this, Hesh. Chalipin works here, take this in lieu of this, be makna that. It's a symbolic thing. It's not. You're not. If no one's using $1,000 object for chalipin, you're using a dirty yarmulke like by your wedding, or they're using a pen. So again, I don't know. I think you're mixing up. What chalipin does. It's not mitar shava. It's mitar be machlif for this. That's all. The guy, he took off his shoe. Hesh. He took off his rag. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. Now, minyan the seifa lamut. Now, what's minyan of the seifa, guys? That she's koinetz asma in two ways. Either what? Either with what? With get or Mrs. Abal. Get or Mrs. Abal. Why does it come to exclude? Lamuti chalitza. That you might think that a woman could go free with chalitza. Why do you think that? Salkadait chamina. Teisi bekal v'chayim mi yavama. Let's learn that kal v'chayim from yavama. Ma yavama. Sheini yoitza beget. A yavama that does not go with a get. Yoitza b'chalitza, zu she yoitza beget, ain't I din she yoitza b'chalitza. Madach a woman goes out with a get, doesn't go with chalitza, so she goes out with a get, ain't it din she go out with chalitza. My yavama, you need chalitza and get doesn't work. Certainly with makam and get does work, chalitza should work. That's where it says, Kamash one, vema hachinami, makroa, sefer krisis, sefer kursa, vein dava acher kursa. The Gemara is going to ask Kasha Vaita that a woman should if she goes out with get, she should be able to go with chalitza. Yavama goes out with chalitza, should be able to go out with get. And the Gemara can say Kalvachaymer, the Gemara is going to it says kacha like this. In other words, we have a good Kalvachaymer, and we have a gezeris a kosiv that what? No, nothing. You dafka need to get and nothing else. Nothing else. We had a half a minute of that money. Makashavayli at sea. You go money kamash that. Okay, very good. Now be kesef minolon. Now be kesef. How do you know? Visu.
So, laser. So in both these instances, they don't have lemutay anything. You have a minion, but you're not lemutay anything.
What are you talking about?
They slugged it up. They said, well, you have that.
They didn't slug it up. Lemutay chalitza. Fred the Gemara inachinami. We shouldn't be memayet chalitza. Being a pasuk to say no, we need a miyat for chalitza. In other words, you need a miyat. Chalitza doesn't work.
Right.
For the Gemara, it should work, and for the Gemara, you have a pasuk that doesn't work.
I got it. Okay.
Says the Gemara, Visu, Hadit Nan, Ha'av Zakai Bebitoi, when she's a katana or a naira, Bikdusheha. Her father is Zoicha in a naira or katana's Kidushin, Bekesef, by taking the kesef, bishtar, he can go ahead and accept the shtar. Ubibia, what's the bia? Rashi says you can give a bal karcha against their will. What are you giving over? Taisu says that you can take money to allow her to be mekudesh as al yedei bia, according to Yerushalmi. In other words, where's the schus in the bia, right? So Rashi says the schus you can do it bal karcha, and Taisu says the Yerushalmi you can go ahead and take money to allow a person to mekadesh with bia. Minolan. How do you know the mekanya of kesef and kesef davua? How do you know that this kesef and how do you know kesef is the father's? Okay, so this is by the girl. This is by the katana and the naira. Some Rabbi Yehuda Marav. The Omakra, the pasuk says. Now this pasuk is said by the parsha of Oma Ivriya. Now an Oma Ivriya is a Jewish girl. She's a katana. She's given over to a man for the purpose, as we're going to see later on in the Masechta, of performing Kidushin called Yiyud. And the money that you were given over for kesef for the sale now becomes kesef kedushin because you want the master or the master's son to marry her. It was a way to facilitate marriage and take care of any shidduch crisis. That's really what it was. And the halacha is that once she becomes a naira, she goes free, and she goes free without anything. For yotza chinam, goes free, meaning ein kesef. She goes free ein kesef. There's no money involved. She walks away. It's like not trading the free agent in his walk year, right? Walks away, right? Anyway, says the Gemara, Ein kesef laden zeh. When she walks away from her master as a slave, he doesn't get money. Aval yesh kesef laden acher. But there's another yitzia that she walks away from, that there is money. When she walks away from her father into marriage, then there's money. There's the two Yitzias, guys. There's leaving the master in slavery, and then leaving the master, meaning her father, leaving her father in marriage. So, ain't kesef l'adin zeh. By the adin, there's no master, there's no money. But the tata, when she walks away from the tata in marriage, then there is money. Then there is money. So that's the limit that there's money. Now the question is, who gets that money? We need two things. One, money, and we need that money goes to the father, not to her. Good. Fred Gemara. Umay niu, who is the adin acher? It's the father. Fred Gemara ve'ema lidida. Let's say the money should go what to her. Says no, it doesn't make any sense. Avia mekabel kidushecha. Dichsiv es biti nasati lishazeh. Right? I'm giving her over. The e shakla kaspa. It doesn't make any sense that he should be able to give her over and she should what? Get the money. Maybe that's the katana who doesn't have the ability to acquire her own Kidushin. She won't get money. And therefore, the father gets the money by the katana. Aval naira, the isla yad lekabel Kidushin, but a naira who, if she would be mekabel Kidushin, it would be good. Tagdish ihi nafsha v'tishkol kaspa. Let her go ahead, be magdish herself, and receive the money. So what's your raya that what? That whether it's a katana or a naira, that the father receives the money if he gives her away. Okay, so the first, so we have, what's our source? Our source is Ome Evriya, guys. Keep count. Our source is Ome Evriya, and the svara. There's a svara that what he should get the money, but that svara only exists by katana and not by naira. Fred the Gemara, if that's the case, right? Why naira? And for the Gemara, Amakra, the pasuk says, "Binureha beisavia." He can be made for nidarim the whole time. Binureha beisavia, the whole time she's in her father's house. He can. Okay. What are we dashing from binureha beisavia? Kol shvach neurim leavia. All monies, all shvach, anything brought in her state of nairis goes to the father. So this is the limud, right? So therefore, why do you need the first pasuk? Right? Guys, Velahadu amrav huna amarav. Minayin shemaisa habas la'av. How do you know the workings of a girl's hands go to the father? Shenemar v'chiyimcha ish es bitay la'ama. If a man would sell his daughter as a slave, ma'oma ma'isi yadel l'rabba. Just like a slave, the workings of a hand goes to a master. Af bas, so to the bas when she's a naira, nami ma'isi yadel la'avia would also go to the father. So why do I need this pasuk? Typically, binureh beisavia. Once you have the pasuk binureh beisavia, meaning the state of nairis, she's always going to go ahead, and anything that comes in will be going to the father. Why do you need the pasuk? To teach me that. I would know it right from the pasuk binureh beisavia. What do you have to say? Binureh beisavia is only referring to one specific thing. Behafaris nedarim hu dechsev. It's in the parsha of hafaris nedarim. In other words, the father has a right, a naira, to go ahead and be made from the neder, but not anything else. And therefore, if that's the case, you wouldn't know Maisa Yidel. And it's back to our original question: how do you know that the money goes to the father? You can't use it ben Sevilla. So now you got a problem. You wanted to know where the kesef, is from. In kesef ladin zeh, aviyesh kesef ladin acher, and you want to say in svara it goes to him because he's going ahead and being Makadishar, so that's only by a katana, not by a naira. Says the Gemara. So naira, you're going to learn about binureh beisavia. We're proving binureh beisavia is limited to what? To nidarim. So back to the original question. Maybe it's only by a katana would the father get the money, but not by a naira. V'chitema, if you're going to say Neilif, let's learn it out from hafaras nidarim. Now, hafaras nidarim is in the chelik of Shulchan Aruch called Yeredeya. Yeredeya is called Isla Veheta. The parsha of Kesef Kedushin is a parsha of it's in Ebenezer, but really it's a din of Mammon, it's a din of Cheshem Mishpat, it's a din of Mammon. It's in Ebenezer because it's Ishus, but it's a monetary matter. You learn that. Let's learn out Naira Kedushin from Hafaras Nadarim, just like the father has an ability to be made for the neder of a Naira, so too he would receive the money of Kedushin of a Naira. Says the Gemara. We don't learn out Mama from Issa. It doesn't exist. We don't learn out money from Issa. It doesn't. And Nidarim is Issa. If a woman is forced by another man. He's ma'anis her, or he mefata, he seduces her, or he marries her, and then he's mighty shemra. According to that, you have to, indeed, his punishments, he has to pay 50, 50, or 100, 50 for oinus, 50 for mafata, 100 shkalim for mighty shemra. That's a kanas. Who does kanas go to? It goes to the father. It goes to the father, right? It goes to the father. Okay, says the Gemara. Right, let's learn now from there. The chitema mikanasa says memayna mikanasa layalfinon. You don't now learn out what mamin from kanas. Just remind me to tell you a Meshech Chachma at the end. We'll go back and I'll tell you a beautiful Meshech Chachma. Right. So memayna mikanasa layalfinon. So right now, the chitema neilaf. Okay, so now we haven't been successful yet in figuring out how the money keep the trail of a naira goes. Right. Says the Gemara. I'll tell you where you know it from. The chitema neilaf mi baisha supagam, by the case of onus. There's the payment of or the baishas and pagam. The father has an ability to marry her off and embarrass her. This is Rashi, based upon the Gemara, and therefore, if you go ahead and ma'anis her, you're taking away his ability to do this, and therefore you're taking away his ability to embarrass her or begam, and so that money goes to him. Shani baishas begam davu shaykh begavayu. He has shaykhs to it. It has shaykhs to him, because again he can go ahead and marry her off to somebody else. So where are we stuck right now, guys? If you're going to use the pasuk, if you're going to use the pasuk from the limud that v'yatzachina min kasef and kesevod zel yesh kesevod acher, you don't know naira. Ella, what do you have to say? Mistabra. We're going to learn out from Amavriya. V'yatzachina min kasef and kesevod zel yesh kesevod acher. What's your kasha? Your kasha is, so how do you know naira? I would say only katana. Says the Gemara, El Mistabra, the Chikom Memayit Amid Aleph. What are you memayit that who gets money? Again, the Odinacha, the master by the slave does not get. You're memayit an other one that does get. So you see the Kavasi come memayit, right? You memayit a see the Kavasi. Says the top Rashi, Yitzias Erisin, Dum Yitzias Amma. The Yitzias of Erisin, when she gets engaged, similar to the Yitzias of Amma, come memayit midin Amma. Ulameimar, the yesh kesef ba. There is kesef. Uma yitzias ama avriya. Ein kesef la'adin the nafka mishu say there's no money to the one she's leaving, which is a master. Ka'amakra afmiyat the yesh kesef the kadayikli yitzias erisin the miyat that you're making, but there is a yitzia from a father when she goes out accepting erisin. Yesh kesef l'misha yatzi menu. There should be kesef the one she leaves. Behind of. In other words, when we say we have two comparisons. She's leaving a master. She's leaving a master, right? And the Torah goes out of its way and it says this master does not get money. Clearly, the only one who can get money is who? Is the master. Who is the equivalent in the miyat of the master? It's the father. Ein kesef la'adin zeh, aval yesh kesef la'adin acher. Good. And just like over here, when you left over here, the money would have gone to him. So too, when you're mimayit, the father would get the money. Clearly, it's to him, no matter what state you're going out in, whether it's Getana or Naira, you would get the money, right? You would get the money. So I don't need a limud. I don't need a limud. It's in Svara. It's just learn the pasuk. The drasha screams out that in every way the father's going to get the money. Again, one more time. What's the father? So it says v'yotzachinam ein kasef. It goes. She leaves the Amma and there's no kesef. To who? Who there's no kesef to? The Adin, the master. So that master, Aval Yesh Kesef L'Adin Acher. There is kesef to another one. Now who's the Adin Acher? Is the father. And just like over there, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about who she's leaving, that this is the one. So to over here, there's no ifs, ands, and buts. He's the one who's going to get the money. Read the Gemara, this Yitzia is not comparable to what? This Yitzia. You can't compare the two. You can't compare the two, right? Says that, why? Hasam over there, nafkale mishus adon legamri. Over there, she's leaving completely. In other words, after she leaves his servitude, there is nothing, no connection whatsoever. Even but when the girl gets engaged as a naira, the father still has a hold on her. Right? In other words, even though there's Kidushin, for 12 months, she's going to live by the father. And she's not a full-fledged Shish. She's an Shish, but not a full-fledged married woman yet, right? Because we need the second part of marriage. And she's still in the father's rishus. So how can you compare the two? One, she totally left, and the other one, she didn't totally leave. Says Gemara, Ba'afaras Nedarim Mia Nafkale. Nafkale Meshuse. Ba'afaras Nedarim, nonetheless, what? She left. In other words, did not. Nair Marasa, Aviu Bailam Ifir Nederecha. In other words, by Nair Marasa, we know that the father cannot go ahead and be made for alone. He needs, in conjunction with the husband now, that the husband that she's not living with yet, you would need that. Okay, the Meshech Chacham, I have to find the pasuk. Where's the pasuk of Mighty Shemra?
Isn't there also another difference between leaving the father's house and leaving the other?
What? What's the other?
By the father, there's still a connection, because if she gets divorced, she goes back. She's still an hour. She goes back to the father's house.
We need a connection that she's still. No, she doesn't have to go back to. That's
No,
you're mixing up a kohen. You're saying a kohen would go back. She'd go back to eating truma. But again, once she leaves, she leaves. The question is, she's out. She's gone. So it's very interesting. By the parsha of Motzi Shemra, she marries her off, and he's the man comes the next morning with a taina that Pesach Pesuach Mitzase. He finds that she says I was Makadesh her a year ago. She's not a Besula. She was what? She was Mizana during the year. She was Mizana during the year. She brings Adam to this, and then you have Adam. People go ahead and say Emmanuel Yisem and the other ones, and the punishment is the following. Listen to this parsha. The some law he places on her alilas devarim, saying that she was mizana. I didn't find basulim. They proved that she was a basula. V'hine hu some alilas devarim. V'hine hu some alilas devarim. He some alilas devarim lemar lematzasi levitcha besulim ve'ele besuli biti uparsha simla. And they show v'laklu zichnei ear. They give their malchus. V'ansu oshlei meya kesef. V'nasnu la'avi anaira. He haitzi shemra al besulas Yisrael. And v'leisi Elisha. She's married to him. La'yuchel l'shalcha. She can't send him. He can't divorce her forever. The question is, why does he get the money? Why does the father get the money? This isn't a din of Kidushin. Bishleim is Makadesh the Isha. Guys, Bishleim is Makadesh the Isha. I understand why he's getting the money back. But why over here is what? Why over here is he getting the money? What? It's a kanas, but why is it going to him? Why it doesn't in Svar, it should go to her. Why is it going to him?
Wouldn't he have to give back to Kidushin if he found her that she's not a psula? Would he have to give back to Kidushin?
No. There's no backs. You need to get. There's no reverting. It's no nullification over here. So the Meshech Chachma says something beautiful. He makes a contrast. There's some law alilas devarim, and for some law he went against her, saying that what? However, when it comes to payment, it says v'hine hu some alilas devarim. It doesn't say some law. He's saying that this guy was not a good father. He's saying what? You didn't raise her well. He's saying you raised the daughter, right? And therefore you're paying him off what you did, because it doesn't have some law, right? You might see shema on him. You might see shema on him. That's the Chachma in Parshas.
Very nice.